Hello everybody. I take immense pleasure in introducing to you Dr. Govind Iyer. He is visiting with us from the University of North Texas. We had 10 very interesting sessions on management control system with him. Today we are planning to ask him some questions regarding taxation in India and USA. So welcome Professor. It was pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
So sir, can we get to some questions?
Absolutely.
So which taxation system does US follows and how efficient it is?
Okay, the tax system in the US is not very different from the tax system in most of the countries around the world, including in India. The US has a multi-tiered tax system. So we talk about direct taxes. There's a federal level income tax on individuals and of course on corporations as well. And we'll just talk about individuals and not so much about corporations. We can get into it later on. Individuals pay a federal income tax on their income. In addition, they also pay a social security tax on their wages. And that funds their social security income upon their retirement. Okay. They also pay a Medicare tax on their wages, which helps them with medical costs upon retirement. That's the federal level tax. There's also a state level tax. Many states, in fact most states other than maybe 7 states, have a state level income tax, and people pay income tax, a state income tax on their incomes. Realize that the tax system in the US, just like in India, is a progressive tax system. That is, as the income rises, the percentage of income that you pay as tax also rises. Okay?
So sir, the next question is comparison between Indian taxation system and USA or other developed country taxation system.
Well, the system may be similar. The question is, does the system work? Okay. What's the biggest problem in developing nations? A very low income or population, right? A very small percentage of population that pays tax.
Yeah.
Okay. That is the issue. The question is not whether the system is good or bad. The question is how well the system works. Okay. So in terms of the system itself, I think India has a very good tax system. I'm not sure that it's working the way it is intended to work.
And sir, any thoughts about GST?
Well, I don't know much about GST. All I know is GST has been introduced in place of multi-state goods and services tax. That I think sales tax was being charged different rates by different states and different locales, and there were different compliance issues with different states and different localities, and it probably was a nightmare for businesses that were doing business in different states. And perhaps this system, which from what I understand is a uniform nationwide system for sales tax, replaces these multi-system tax and multi-level tax. I think from that standpoint, I think introducing GST is probably a good idea, because it does a couple of things. It takes away the complexity from the system, and it brings in a lot more certainty into the system, because regardless of where I do business, I know for sure what are the forms, what is the rate, and I also probably know who is in charge of administering the system.
So, your thoughts on the effect of GST on Indian economy?
Well, I guess if you make doing business easy, businesses will do more business. So from that standpoint, I think GST is good, is probably very good. But realize that investors don't invest in a business just because the tax system is good. Remember, you got to make profits to be taxed, right? So unless I make profits, I'm not really worrying about the taxes. So the first thing I worry about in terms of, say, starting a business in any economy, you're moving to a specific country, is what are the other conditions to do business? So GST, good, but not sufficient. I think investors are looking at other reasons why they should move to India and start their businesses. And existing businesses may do better or worse. The one thing that I want to say about GST, which probably is important, is GST forces a lot of underground economy to come above ground. So there may be a spillover effect, and that may be probably the main intended effect by the government, is by forcing people to take credit for taxes that they have paid, they're forcing people to account for their sales, right? So you might see a lot of receiptless cash sales, because if I do a receiptless cash sale and I don't account for it, any related taxes that I have paid on my purchases is not refunded to me, right? So it forces me to bring my so-called underground, the black market, into above ground. That may be one intention. How well that works is anybody's guess.
So, your thoughts on multiple slabs introduced by Government of India? Unlike US, where only few slabs are there.
Again, slabs by itself do very little damage. The problem is, what are the rates? Okay. If you have really high rates, then there is a greater incentive to cheat, right? The problem with India, again, as I say, is not the system. It is the enforcement. Part of it is the enforcement, part of it is the culture. The biggest surprise in the US is not that there are cheaters in the US. Because, hey, if I can cheat and get away with it, I probably would, right? From a simply economic standpoint. The surprise about the US economy and in many developed nations is, despite law enforcement, a lot of people pay tax, right? That culture, that ethics has to be embedded in the society. Here, people take pride in not paying tax. Okay? In the US, if I didn't pay tax, I wouldn't tell anybody. I would be ashamed of it. I would say, hey, I hope nobody finds out. Because if my neighbor finds out that I'm a tax cheat, he doesn't want to deal with me anymore. Because if I cheat the government, most likely I'm going to cheat you too, right? Here, people take pride somehow in saying, I don't have to pay tax. So it's not the slabs, it's not the system. Number one, it's the culture. And number two, it's the enforcement. What have we done? What has the Indian government done to enforce that people pay their fair share of taxes? Realize that when you demand goods and services from the government, when you demand good governance, it doesn't come free. Someone has to pay for it. And all of us have to pay for it. It's a shared responsibility. And it's only right, at least in some manner, okay, that people who have a lot to pay, or who can afford to pay a lot, should pay, not a lot, but a little bit more than the people who cannot afford to pay. Right? It's not a big ask. It's only fair.
So, any recommendations or thoughts you have for Government of India?
Well, I am not going to be in a position where, or I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'm going to advise the economists out with the government. That's not my job, and I don't think I'm smart enough to do that. But as future taxpayers and future businessmen, this is what I would tell you, is anybody that you come across and in your own lives, realize that taxes aren't all bad. Taxes pay for a lot of things that we need. Okay? So in your businesses, in your personal life, pay your tax, encourage the people that you come across to pay their tax. If all of us do our jobs, we don't have to worry about the government. Okay? And they force the government to account for it. Okay? Because one of the biggest reasons Indians give is, we don't know what happens to our taxes. Well, you don't pay any. If you pay, then you would have the right to question. So pay your taxes, hold your government officials or your elected representatives accountable for spending the money. Okay. That's how developed nations work, and that's where India should move towards.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.